Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Daily Soul Bytes show. I am your host, Bola Abimbola, and this is the show where we interview expert authors and coaches and interpreters to share their insights for the expansion of collective consciousness. And I would like to thank you for sharing our videos on your social media and for supporting us and subscribing to us. This is what we are about. And today, my guest is Melanie Sheree. Melanie's from Colorado, and welcome to the show, Melanie.
Thank you so much for having me, Bola.
Thank you, Melanie. And I do want to read a bit about Melanie's bio before we start. Melanie Sheree is a lifelong medium and spiritual teacher. Her awareness of spirit started early on in life, seeing, communicating, and interacting with the spirit world, and went on to study many modalities in the esoteric realm. Melanie's goal is to provide content, support, and easy to master techniques to assist her clients in aligning with their deepest truths and certainty as a sensitive, mystical, and multidimensional being. Welcome, Melanie.
Thank you.
So tell us what a multidimensional being is. I'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, so the way that I really look at us as human beings is that, we're both spirit and body. So having a human body, having a physical experience, there's many different layers of that experience. We have the emotional experience, the mental experience, the physical worldly experience. And, you know, part of the multidimensionality of us is that we also have access to so many other layers of energy. And, the chakra
Mm,
system, I think, really explains this well. You have the first three chakras kind of really, pardon me, explaining that human experience of survival and bodily needs, your emotional state, how you move and travel in the world and accomplish tasks, how you fuel your body. And then as you come up into those upper chakras, the fourth through the seventh, you have a couple other layers there of dimensionality, like your sense of self and what you can manifest, your ability
mm,
to communicate and receive communication, the ability to see energy or to view the world in a specific way. And really, at the crown chakra level, the seventh chakra, um, that ability to kind of have your knowing and your spiritual information. And so when I talk about somebody as being a multidimensional being, we're really comprised of all of those parts. We're so much more than our
mm.
bodies. We're all of those different layers of dimensionality.
Oh, yes, I totally love the way you put that. And how did you come to this understanding of all of who we are? Could you tell us a bit about your background and how, because I know this, we don't just wake up knowing all about this about ourselves.
Oh,
How did you come to understand this about who we are?
yeah. Well, a bit about my background. I grew up interacting with spirit and being in a family who did not know what I was experiencing. So a lot of my experience was through the lens of noticing things, hearing things, experiencing, interacting with spirit, and my parents more or less being like, look, Melanie, there's no monsters in your room. Go to sleep. That type of thing. And as I got older, it was much more of feeling and noticing energy in ways that other people didn't. And some of that was me being really sensitive. And, the feedback was you need to toughen up. Um, don't let things bother you, grow a thicker skin.
Mm,
And, or it was more of when I would talk to somebody, I would see the thing that they didn't want to talk about, and I would talk about it.
mm,
Which sometimes doesn't go over very well.
mm,
So I, experienced a lot of feedback around the way I was growing up and how I just was different. And
yes.
from a very young age, I started trying to figure out why. Why was I so sensitive? Why did I notice these things? Why was I experiencing the world in the way that I was? Why was I having hyper real dreams that felt like they were more real than my waking life? So I started going to bookstores and just sitting in the metaphysical section and reading about everything I could get my hands on, and whether that was tarot, Reiki, crystal healing, chakra systems, astral travel. I just dove in. And started researching. And my journey, went from this point of really wanting to know and figure it out to just kind of believing that there was something very wrong with me. Because none of that stuff that I studied really gave me a basis for what to do about it. It wasn't a how-to guide on how to be highly sensitive in a world where there's so much stimuli and so many things demanding your attention, and media and advertisements, and it seemed like I didn't fit, like I wasn't supposed to be here or something. I've talked to so many people that feel the same way. They're like, am I an alien? Do I belong
Yes.
on this planet? And the fact of the matter is that when you come into the world as somebody who's awake and aware of energy, you are meant to create a change. And sometimes that long process of discovering what works for you and what doesn't work for you can be really painful, but it also
Mhm.
becomes a source of information for you to be able to assist other people on their path. So at some point, I discovered psychic energy work, and it was like the light bulb went off. Um, that was when I really started delving into my practice, and I started working for a psychic school. I went on to kind of start my own business. I think the way that I really discovered, coming back to your question, we've been on a journey here. Coming back to your question, the way that I discovered the multidimensionality of all we are is that I just kept searching for that deeper meaning in life, because I knew there was something more than just wake up, have a job, have two kids, get married, die.
Yes.
There has to
That's the
be.
conditioning. That's the
There has to
conditioning.
be.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly. So I actually had a near-death experience several years ago. And in that experience, I left my body. I was transported out into the center of the universe. I met Source, and I got this download about why we're all here and what we're doing here and what the point is and why we forget that we are here to do the things that we're here to do and why we have painful lessons. And it just really opened my eyes to the fact that, everything I'd been experiencing is not only real, but there's so much that we experience that we think is not for us or not going our way, when really a lot of times they're tough lessons, but they're really deeply helping us grow in some type of way.
Mm. Mm. That's wisdom. That's
Yeah.
wisdom. You receive that infinite wisdom.
Yeah.
And I love the way you connected with reading, because reading is one of the ways that I also managed to understand why I was so different as a child. I also had so many different experiences with spirit that nobody around me encouraged me to develop or to understand. And this is why I think this show is really important to help us really come to understand some of these experiences that we have, and to help us to realize that it is normal. We're not alone. We're
Yeah.
not
Because
alone.
without that context that there's other people that are experiencing that, you do feel very alone. You feel very isolated when nobody can understand what you're saying or relate to what you're seeing or experiencing. It's so isolating. It's so isolating because not
And
only
traumatic. And
it is
traumatic.
very traumatic, and not only are you experiencing those things, but nobody can relate or tell you how to get through it. And then you're even more isolated because you're like, well, why is everybody else going along with their day and I'm feeling everybody's emotions and I can't think straight? Or, I walk into the grocery store and all of a sudden I'm exhausted, or I'm noticing all of these colors and I don't know what they mean, but I'm seeing them everywhere. And am I losing my mind?
And then it's one thing for us to read about these things,
Mhm.
to understand, because I remember reading about higher self and true self, but not really understanding what is this true self? Where is this true self? Where can I find it? Which market can I buy it? Where am I gonna, which superstore is gonna sell me this true self?
Yeah.
It's really challenging to really come to terms with it. And being a seeker, I love that you are also a seeker, because there's nothing more life-saving when you are an empath. or a psychic than being a seeker, because you have to have an internal locus of control. You have to have that motivation coming from within you, because nobody outside of you is going to tell you to go within. You know, it's something that I really value about myself, and I'm really loving, hearing you saying that. And I do want to read a section in my book actually about empaths, because this is the book that has just been published on it's Daily Soul Bites, saying properly, I don't know. Daily Soul Bites. It's just been published by Bible Press. And there's a chapter on there. This is nuggets of inspiration, really, that help us to develop a deeper self-awareness with that true self, that higher self within us. So this is the empath. Our loving, caring, empathetic self picks up on the thoughts of others. These thoughts can be resonant and in tune with us, or we may pick up thoughts we do not resonate with that cause inner emotional conflicts for us. We can sense that something does not sit right with us, but not know what it is. When we feel this way, we can pause, take time to tune into the thoughts behind the feelings that are off. We can ask ourselves, what am I thinking of? You can write it out or draw it. Get to know what is behind the feeling. The energy behind the thought is yours to manage. As an empath who sincerely cares for others, there's value in sharing a deeper connection and understanding with others, or expanding relationships at work or play. So it is good to appreciate this loving self in its totality. We can learn to resolve the inner emotional conflicts, to be attentive, kind, and gentle to our own vulnerable sides. As we understand these sides of our own self, we only become more rounded and competent and confident in all that we truly are. So this is really how I see us as empaths. We are vulnerable. We have vulnerable sides. And sometimes we want to bury it, we want to repress it. But it's important for us to embrace it in the totality, but also to embrace our response to others, to embrace the way we relate to others, because there is wisdom in that. There is wisdom in the connection that we have with source, with spirit. And there's a way that we can learn to connect with spirit as well as be attentive to our own vulnerable selves. So this is something that I teach as well in my emotional mastery program. I actually, work with clients as well to support them to really become much more vulnerable and loving to self, trauma care. Because I hear you, Melanie, when you say that you learned to work with that psychic self that you are. Tell me a bit more about your work, because I know that you help others as well in your spiritual awakening. Is it awakening spirit, or what is the name of your program? I'd love to know more about it.
Yeah, so I teach a beginner's class that's every Wednesday night. It's called The Awakened Spirit, and it is an esoteric exploration into different topics and learning psychic energy work. It's all about learning how to notice your own energy, how to really separate from energy that's not yours, and how to reclaim your energy through exploring different topics. So right now we're going into a series on money and abundance magic. And I usually get on a theme and go through a couple of different layers of that. And usually that builds momentum to really create a really big shift for the person who's in the space. My thorough 18-month long training program is a little more in depth. That is Awakening Sanctuary. It's a women's program.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
it is for people that are really wanting to take their ability to see energy, to heal energy, to really become a practitioner and step into that space. We start those
Okay.
trainings 2 times a year, and right now we're currently enrolling for that program.
Okay. Okay. And I wanted to know a bit more about, because I might actually be coming on that program actually, on the one that helps us to separate um because that is so key. That is so key, because when you're an empath, you find yourself, talking to somebody or even standing next to somebody, in the superstore, and you suddenly feel very, very low. And you're wondering, What's going on here? What advice would you give to those who are going through things like that, for example?
So, what you need to know about yourself as an empath is that you have an awakened second chakra ability of clairsentience, which is a psychic ability to sense energy. But you're not only sensing it and taking it on, you are unconsciously healing it. So, you are probably very empathetic because you've been through some stuff, you've been through some hardships, and throughout your lifetime, you noticed that if you really scanned around, the room to notice the vibe, to see how everybody's doing, to use that sense to make sure you were safe, you could read the room and know when it was time to go over here or maybe to hide. So part of being an empath is recognizing that not only are you taking on that energy, but you're unconsciously healing it. So when you step into a space of energy awareness, you begin to build that awareness of, oh, I'm taking this on. I can see the energy I'm taking on, and now I can see how to move it out because I'm knowing what the dynamic is, why it's coming in, where it's coming in on, what it's getting stuck to, and why I'm wanting to heal that for that person. So in the training, you're really able to see that energy, to separate from it and begin to really recognize what's yours and what's not. I don't know that there's anything that's more frustrating than having a great day and all of a sudden you just hit that wall.
Mm,
Or all of a sudden you just are like, I am irritated. It happens. It still happens
yes.
to me. It's not like it doesn't. It's more that, now when that happens, I can see the dynamic of what's happening in the energy and separate from it and just reset.
Yes, yes, that's beautiful self-awareness. This is self-awareness to actually pick it up and pick it up not as a victim, but as an empowered being.
Yes, that
I
is the huge
love,
thing. The huge piece
yes,
about being an empath, right? Is that we are conditioned to believe that it's happening to us. But really, we are the ones out there. We are the ones healing everybody. We care that deeply. We're trying to heal the whole supermarket.
yes.
So
And we
once you
come,
recognize,
go
yeah,
on, go on.
exactly. And once you recognize that you're the one healing everybody, you can go, oh, maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I
To that
do
extent,
that.
all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. You can pick and choose, and you can turn it on and off, which is such a blessing. I tell people all the time, I'm psychic, I see energy, but when I'm driving down the road at night, I turn it off because it is very distracting.
Yes. And it's a breathing, it's a pausing, it's a knowing that we are actually empowered beings and we have the power to set the boundaries using modalities that work for that you teach, that work for us in order for us to live our lives, be vulnerable, but also be be the healers that we have come. We chose to come. I don't think any empath comes into this earth plane without choosing to be. It is hard work. It is hard work because it starts from when you are a child. A lot of people start working when they are adults. We start working when we're kids, and you find yourself really trying to heal everybody when you really should be having a fun time as a child and not be
Right.
so isolated and traumatized.
Right.
um and where can people find you, Melanie, those who are, because sometimes this trauma that we go through as empaths as children do not leave us as adults, and it's important for us to have access to people like you who will help to release some of that trauma, but also enable a lot of those who may be listening who may resonate with this to become empowered empaths and psychics, dealing with that spiritual energy, healing those who they need to heal, but most importantly, loving all parts of themselves in totality. In totality.
Even the parts that you feel are unlovable.
Yes.
So you can absolutely find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is @_awakened.spirit. My website is melaniesheree.com, and my women's psychic training program website is awakeningsanctuary.com.
Oh, that is wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me today, Melanie.
Thanks for having me. It was such a blessing.
Thank you. And I would like to thank all of our audience for joining us today and look forward to seeing you again on the next episode of the Daily Soul Bites show. Bye bye.